All right, welcome. Today we're going to tackle those super dense official guidelines for Maps search evaluation and, turn them into something you can actually use. The whole point here is to break down everything you need to know so you can walk in ready to be a fantastic rater. I mean, have you ever really thought about it? You type in some misspelled business name or something kind of vague like coffee near me, and poof, somehow it just figures it out. So, how does it do that? Well, the secret isn't just a bunch of fancy algorithms. That's the secret sauce, right there. It's people. It's skilled evaluators, just like you, who bring that critical human judgment into the mix. You're basically the ground truth that teaches the entire system what a good result actually looks like to a real person. Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll cover what your core mission is, we'll get into decoding what the user actually wants, then the art of rating relevance and accuracy, how to handle the most common queries, and we'll wrap it all up with some killer tips to help you crush that exam. All right, let's kick things off. Section 1, your mission. So, what's the ultimate goal here? What are you really trying to do as a rater? Well, it's kind of like you're wearing two different hats. See, on one hand, you've got to be the user. You have to step into their shoes and judge how well a result scratches their itch. But then you immediately switch gears and become a detective, a fact checker. You have to verify that every piece of information, the name, the address, that little pin on the map, is dead on accurate in the real world. And this is basically your mental checklist for every single task. You're going to want to burn this into your brain. First, figure out what the user wants. Second, rate how relevant the result is. And third, check the data for the name, address, and PIN. If you can nail this three-step process every time, you're golden. Okay, on to our next section, which digs into that first crucial step, understanding user intent. Look, before you can rate a single thing, you have to play detective and get inside the user's head. What do they really want? Let's be real, user queries are a mess sometimes, right? They're misspelled, they're vague, they're incomplete. So your first job is to look at all the clues. You've got the query itself, sure, but you also have the user's physical location, and this is a big one, the specific area they're looking at on the map. That's called the viewport. And you've got to pay extra close attention if it's a fresh viewport, because if the user just moved the map there, that's a huge clue about what they're looking for. All right, so once you have a pretty good idea of what the user is after, it's time for the main event, judging the relevance. This is really the heart of the rating task. Okay, this right here is your number one tool. It's the 5-level relevance scale. It starts at the very top with Navigational, that one single perfect answer, and goes all the way down to bad. Now here's a key thing to remember. If you rate something as good or lower, you have to explain why. Was the system confused about the intent? Or was the result just too far away? Or maybe not prominent enough, like not well known? So let's really nail down the difference between navigational and excellent, because it's a big one. If someone searches for the Eiffel Tower, there's only one of those on the entire planet, right? That's a navigational result. But if they search for pizza, well, there could be tons of amazing pizza places nearby. Any of those could be a fantastic, totally satisfying, excellent result. And it's not just about what's right or wrong. You also have to think about what's likely. You have to ask yourself, does this result match the user's most obvious, most likely intent, their primary intent? Or is it something they might have meant, but it's a long shot, a secondary intent? The example here is perfect. A search for Machu Picchu while the user is in Boston. They're almost certainly looking for the famous landmark in Peru, not the local Peruvian restaurant. The restaurant is, at best, a secondary possibility. Okay, so you've rated for relevance. Now it's time to completely switch gears. We're moving on to verifying data accuracy. You're not the user anymore. Now you're a hardcore fact checker. And the only question you care about is this data correct? First things first, the name and the category. You're going to have to do some research here. Use official sources like the business's actual website to get the name exactly right. Is it Starbucks or is it Starbucks coffee? Those details are everything. And, of course, is it in the right category? Is it really a coffee shop? Next up, the address. And again, you've got to be a stickler for details. You need to confirm that every single piece of that address is correct. I'm talking street number, street name, city, postal code, country, all of it. Pro tip, official National Postal Service websites are going to be your best friend for this. And last, but definitely not least, we have the PIN. This is all about precision. A pin that's just kind of close is not good enough. We want it placed with surgical accuracy, right on the building's rooftop. Or if it's a big place like a stadium or a subway station, it should be right on the main entrance. And this image just makes it so clear. Look at the one on the left. The pin is perfectly centered on the building. That's what we call a perfect rating. Now look at the right. It's off. It's on the street, or maybe it's on the building next door. That's wrong. Simple as that. Your job is to fire up that satellite view and make sure it's perfect. All right, we've covered all the individual pieces. Now let's put it all together. Let's see how this whole system works when you're faced with the most common types of queries you're going to see. Think of this table as your little cheat sheet. Let's walk through it. See how a complete, unique address can get a navigational rating? Same for a super famous, unambiguous landmark like Mount Rushmore. Now, a specific business name. That could be navigational if there's only one in the world, but it's often excellent. But look at a general category search like restaurants. That's always going to top out at excellent, because there are just so many possible great answers. Okay, we're in the home stretch. Let's wrap up with some absolutely critical tips for success. Think of this as your last-minute checklist before the big exam. Okay, listen up, because this one is huge. You are always rating against the real world, not just against the other results on the screen. So what does that mean? It means if a user searches for pizza and the system gives them a pretty good result, but you know from your research that there's a world-famous, incredible pizzeria even closer that the system missed, you have to downgrade the result it did show. You're not just rating what's there, you're rating it against what could have been. You're rating against perfection. And here are a few more rapid-fire exam alerts to lock in. First, if the query is a business name plus an address, the result has to be the actual business, not just a random pin dropped at that address. Super important. Second, always think about where the user is located compared to where they're looking on the map. And finally, the golden rule, the one rule to rule them all: when in doubt, research. Back up every single rating you make with proof from official sources. You know, it's really easy to forget the bigger picture here. It might feel like you're just clicking through one task at a time, but what you're really doing is building a better, more helpful, more accurate world. Your attention to detail, your judgment, it truly makes a difference for millions of people trying to find their way. And there you have it. That's the whole journey from start to finish. You now have the framework. You know how to decode intent, you know how to judge relevance, and you know how to fact-check every last detail. The guidelines are your map, and your own good judgment is the compass. You've got all the tools you need. Now, go build a better map.